Happy Wednesday. This is Cynthia Thurlow with Doodles in Tow. I am jumping on board to talk about some truth bombs relevant to questions I've been asked every single day this week. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cynthia Thurlow. I'm a nurse practitioner and I am solely focused on female hormonal health. And tonight I want to talk to you about some truth bombs. It's interesting. There is quite a bit of information, some of it good, some of it not so good. And so I want to help you understand some of the most prevailing questions I've had recently about both HGH as a adjunct to weight loss, as well as how a ketogenic diet can be beneficial or not, depending on who you are. So let's first talk about human growth hormone. So human growth hormone is something that's actually secreted naturally in the pituitary gland in the brain. As we get older, as we get to our 20s and 30s, we lose about 10 to 14% every 10 years. So that's why it is harder and harder and harder as we get older to stay lean, to address bone density, to sleep well, and to deal with immunity as well as fat and sugar metabolism. What has become really evident to me and has become very popular for many people right now is to have human growth hormone as a supplement, either topically or taking it by injection. In fact, there is a very popular functional medicine practice in the Midwest. I will not call them out. They have convinced my mother, who is in her 70s, to actually use human growth hormone as well as a 500 calorie a day diet. And as you can well imagine, this is not necessarily something that I think is beneficial. I am inundated almost on a daily basis with reps for some of the topical HGH formulations asking me to carry it. And I'm going to tell you why. I think that it is hugely non-beneficial to be messing with your hormones in a way that one thing to consider is that if we give ourselves hormones externally, it can impact hormones inside our body and not always in a positive way. So I want you to think about what human growth hormone does. As I mentioned before, it deals with lean muscle mass. It is considered to be an anti-aging hormone, although I'm going to give you multiple ways that you can tap into human growth hormone without having to pay hundreds and even thousands of dollars a month for human growth hormone externally to the body. The first way that you can do that is you need really good quality sleep, and that is sleep that is done in a cold, dark room that is designed to kind of replenish your body. You know, our bodies, actually our brains are most active at night, whether or not you realize that. That's why it's so important as we get older that we're getting good quality sleep. You want to go to bed without electronics. You want to turn off your iPhone, your iPad, and turn off the TV. We know that the blue light that emanates from electronics can adversely impact our ability to secrete a hormone called melatonin in the brain. Melatonin is what tells our body to go to bed. If that is not activated properly, our body thinks that we want to be awake, and so we'll tap into cortisol, can impact serotonin, and can make us very hard to sleep. So sleep is super important to intrinsically activate human growth hormone. Secondly, intermittent fasting. I know you hear me talk a lot about it. I'm a huge proponent of it. It is a large reason why I have stayed lean and mean in my 40s. And so intermittent fasting, whether it is something that you do a couple times a week, whether you do one 24-hour fast or you abide by a 16-8 schedule, which is 16 hours of fasting daily, and then an 8-hour feeding window, which is what I do, that also can tap into creating more human growth hormone. Thirdly, we know that things like the volume and intensity of exercise we do is another way that we can tap into this. I like to do this by using HIIT or Tabata, which is high intensity interval training. This is not your long, slow cardio. This is not sitting on a cycling bike for an hour, cranking out, the same effort. This is where you get your heart rate up and then you back off. And this is where you get breathy, like almost like you want to vomit because you're trying so hard to stay in this zone of where you really are burning calories. So this is not you are sitting on your treadmill and cranking out 6 miles an hour for 20 minutes. That is not what this is. It is designed to be tough. It is designed to really acclimate. Hey, Lindsay, actually one of the friends that's watching right now has an amazing exercise program that utilizes the same strategy. So HIIT and Tabata are ways that we can tap into this. The other way that we can do this is through mindfulness exercise. Is super important that we are engaging in self-care. Everyone always thinks when I talk about this that I'm referring specifically to meditation, but taking care of yourself, taking care of your brain is a way that you can naturally impact this. The next topic that I want to chat about really briefly is a ketogenic diet. I get a lot of questions about ketogenic diets, and ketogenic diets work for some people, but not for all. And here's why. We are all individuals. So not everyone can tolerate a higher fat, higher protein diet, lower carb diet. Lower carb diets generally work well for many people, especially if you have weight to lose. And by weight to lose, I'm referring to more than 10 or 15 pounds of weight to lose. You will see people that will do very well losing 50, 60, 70 pounds by implementing a ketogenic diet. But I want you to think about the fact that we don't know offhand. And I had someone who contacted me a few months ago, and she tried to do a ketogenic diet, was wondering why she was gaining weight, not losing weight. And I said, you are only as good as the ability to break down those nutrients. So if you're eating a higher protein, higher fat diet, and you're gaining weight, it is very likely your body is is struggling to break those nutrients down. We know that ketogenic diets can be very beneficial because they will tap into our ability to burn fats for fuel as opposed to sugar. And if you don't know the difference between a sugar burner and a fat burner taps into the fat stores, whereas a sugar burner is someone that is going to be you won't have as much energy. You're going to be hungry more frequently. It's really not an efficient way to run your body. And our bodies are not designed to graze on food all day long. So when clients tell me they're eating throughout the day, they graze all day long, our bodies are really designed to be optimized in that you eat a meal in the morning, a meal midday, and a meal in the afternoon or early evening, not opposed to snacking throughout the day, which really taps into secreting insulin more frequently, which is not beneficial. I want you to think about the benefits of being a fat burner versus a sugar burner. And certainly things like the fact that you should have more energy and have a clearer mind is a good indication that being a fat burner is something that works well for you. Always, these doodles are always barking. Shh. They're upstairs barking. Always, always, always. The one thing I want you to think about, the one thing I want you to consider and think about is that ketogenic diets, I believe, are good for the short term for many people. They're not something that I recommend to my female clients as a long-term option because we know that it can put a strain on our adrenals. It can also make it harder for our body to go from inactive thyroid hormone to active thyroid hormone. So T4 to T3 conversion can be impeded if you are at a sustained less than 50 grams of carbohydrates a day. And I do see many clients that do that. What I find is a much kinder way to eat a lower carb diet is to cycle your carbohydrates, meaning, and actually I just did an ABC telecast on this. When you cycle your carbohydrates, you have some days where you're having more carbs and some days where you have less. And you're depleting your glycogen stores on the day where you're lower carb, and then you're replenishing them on the days when you are doing some strength training. Also super important is that if you're carb cycling, you consider that you can also do cyclical ketogenic diets, which means that it might be 5 days out of the week that you do a low carb diet and then 2 days you replenish. So those are two options, but I do believe that the HGH craze that's going on is detrimental and not something that would be beneficial. I would not recommend that, especially associated with a low calorie diet, because the weight you will lose, you will then gain back when you stop using HGH and engaging in a 500 calorie a day diet. I do think a ketogenic diet can be helpful, but the caveat being it's all about bio-individuality. There are specific tests that I run in my practice that can tell us how well we are digesting our protein, fat, and carbohydrates. And I was surprised to find out this summer that one of the reasons why I gravitate towards certain foods is that my body doesn't break down protein and fats as well as it once did. So now I'm actually supplementing with some special supplements that are helping me break those things down a bit better. Again, this is Cynthia Thurlow, nurse practitioner. I would love for you to join my free group at CHT Wellness Community. I will put a link in the bio, but I'd love to hear what you are most interested in learning about. I appreciate your listening. Have a great evening.